Shabbat Shalom, Hebrew Israelite family. Glory and honor to our Father Yahweh, the creator of heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is. Glory and honor to his name. Welcome to the 12 tribes that are awakening for the children of Israel by the Father. Also to the brethren of the Gentiles that have joined us with us in the faith of the Messiah. Glory and honor to the Father, and glory and honor to Yahweh Shah Messiah. Greetings also to the chat, Brother Lonnie and Sister Jillian, Azariah by Israel, Mommy and Sister Josie and Brother Frankie and Brandon Beckman and Yafi and Brother Gary Joseph, Superstar Strict 66, Brother Manny Akawan Banya. Greeting to all of you. We're continuing our study in the prophecies of Revelation. Castle King, welcome. We are in the fifth seal. And we're just finishing we finished the fifth seal, and we're going to be looking at the sixth seal. But very quickly, I just want to review the fifth seal in terms of the dates. So the Ottoman Empire began in 1299 AD. But the battle between the Ottomans and the Byzantine Empire started in 1303. It was in 1303 that they had what they called the Battle of Dembos. That was the beginning of the Ottoman attack on the Byzantine Empire. Now, the Byzantine Empire was basically the Roman Empire as it was transforming from the Caesars and the military political empire until a religious empire. The transformation started under Constantine, and Constantine was really the beginning of the Byzantine Empire. So the Ottomans, as much as Islam came in the 7th century, by the time the Ottoman Empire started, the Muslims had now been in existence for more than 6 centuries. So now you get to 1303, and they're now, and just like the Christians would spread their gospel at the point of a sword. That's how they did it. Their crusades consisted of going into other lands and either making people convert to Christianity or killing them, or making them convert to Christianity or enslaving them. That's what they did. The Muslims were the same way. They would go into other people's lands and make them convert to Islam or slay them. Okay, that's how both religions operated, in the same way. Very similar. So with that in mind, the Christians wanted the people that were in the Turkey and going south into what now is Palestine, they wanted them to be converted to Christianity. But the Ottomans wanted them to be converted to Islam. This also happened in Europe over a parcel of large country land called Khazaria, which that land, the people of that land decided to take on Judaism. And they became what we know today as Ashkenazi Jews, starting in the eastern part of Europe, okay, the Ashkenazi Jews. And so the battle of the Ottomans, between the Ottomans and the Byzantine, started in 1303. And as the Bible talked about 150 years, which was 5 months, 5 months is 150 days. And in Bible prophecy, that's 150 years. So it would take you from 1303 to 1453. So you go from 1303, the Battle of Dembos, when the battle between the Ottoman Empire and the Byzantine Empire began, and then you get to 1453. 1453 is when the Ottomans took over the city of Constantinople, and they basically won the battle in that they took the land that is now Turkey. The land that is now Turkey officially became a Muslim nation at that time. And so from that point, Islam, there was really a contest between Islam and Christianity about converting people to their religion. And again, they used violence to convert people to their religion. So that takes us, that's the 5th century. Now that's the 5th century. That's the 5th trumpet, which was started again in the 14th century, and that part finished in the 15th century in 1453. That takes us to the 6th seal. So let's take a look at the 6th seal, and let's begin in verse 12. We just finished the the fifth sea, I said, I'm sorry, the fifth trumpet that take us to the sixth trumpet. And remember, these trumpets represent people whose prayers are not reaching the Most High. Okay. So it's showing you people during the same time periods as the Hebrews, but their prayers are not reaching the Most High. And in this case too, they're putting hands on the Hebrews, just like the four powers that we shown, which started in Babylon and ended in Rome. They put their hands on the Hebrews as well, which is why they're being mentioned here. Now, let's start at verse 12. This would be Revelation chapter 9, beginning at verse 12. We're going to read from verse 12 down to verse 15. This is Revelation chapter 9, beginning at verse 12 and going down to verse 15. One woe is past, and behold, there come two woes more hereafter. So these are woes, not woes to the Hebrews. Well, kind of, but definitely woes to the heathen. So let's take a look in verse 13. And the sixth angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar, which is before Yahweh, saying to the sixth angel, which had the trumpet, loose the four angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. And the four angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour, a day, and a month, and a year, for to slay the third part of men. Now, we already talked about the third before, but let's look at this number. And I'm sorry, Castle King, we're going to have to use our calculator here. So we got to use a calculator here. So, okay, so in prophetic time, I'm going to give you the first part. So it says an hour. In prophetic time, that's 15 days. Okay, that's 15 days. But let's add the rest of it up. So an hour and then a day. Okay, a day in prophetic time is what, brethren? A day in prophetic time is what? It says an hour. And then it says a day. What's a day in prophetic time? 1 year. Thank you, Akron Banya. So that's 1 year. Okay. Plus, so you got 1 year and 15 days. And then it says a month. What's a month in prophetic time? What's a month in prophetic time? Yeah, 1 year. What's a month? $30 years. Thank you. 1 plus 30, 31. And then it said a year. So a year in prophetic time is how many? What is that? A year in prophetic time is how many actual years? A year in prophetic time is what? A year in prophetic time is, no, not 365. It would be 360. In the Bible, they use 360. 365 in the Gregorian calendar, correct. But for the Bible, they use terms of 360. Okay. Now, you add 1 plus 30 plus 360. What do you have? You have 1 plus 30 plus 360. That's where we're going to need our calculator. 391. That's correct, superstar. So you get, if you add 1 plus 30 plus 60, you get 391. That's right, delivery boy. I did the same thing once, but it's 391 in 15 days. Okay. So 391. Everybody got that? Delivery boy, you with me? 391. Okay. So 1 plus 30 plus 360 is 391. So now, if you were to add, listen carefully, if you were to add 391 years to 1453, where would that take you? If you add 391 years to 1453, the year 1453, where would that take you? Dun, 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 dun. Right. For 1844. Very good. So now In 1844, the Ottoman Empire issued what was termed the Edict of Toleration. In 1844, the Edict of Toleration. Now, why was that important in 1844 that the Ottoman Empire issued the Edict of Toleration? Well, let me read what it actually says. Well, let me read what it actually says for that historical event. So the Edict of Toleration was an official note submitted by the Ottoman Sublime Porte in March of 1844, promising to abolish the death penalty for apostates, specifically Christians who converted to Islam and then returned to Christianity within the Ottoman Empire. So if you changed your religion from Islam, they will kill you. So when it says they're going to slay the third part of men, this is during this time, this 391 years, they were enforcing Islam over Africa and over what we call the Middle East and over other parts of the Far East. This is what the Muslims were doing, okay? So they were enforcing Islam. And if you didn't convert, or if you said you converted but went to another religion like Christianity, they would kill you. So they did this so much. And notice what it says in the word. Let's go to the word and see what it says about that. It says, verse 15 of Revelation chapter 9. And the four angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year for to slay the third part of men. So they were killing people that did not stay with Islam. And they did it for 391 years until 1844, when they issued the Edict of Toleration. But also, I want you to note in verse 14, where it says, and saying to the sixth angel, which had the trumpet, loose the four angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. Now, brethren, what country in the Bible is the Euphrates associated with? What country in the Bible is the Euphrates associated with? The Euphrates River. It's associated with one kingdom in the Bible. The Euphrates is associated with Africa. That's right. Let me get that. Let me get that for you. And let's look at Jeremiah. Yes, Jeremiah. Let's see. Okay, so Jeremiah, let's see, Jeremiah chapter 51, which is where we got the burnt mountain. Jeremiah chapter 51. And let's look at Jeremiah 51. And we're also going to look at Revelation also, but let's look at Jeremiah chapter 51. In Jeremiah 51, okay, so Jeremiah was pronouncing judgment on Babylon in Jeremiah 51. Of course, the worldwide system in the book of Revelation is also called Babylon, okay? But here in Jeremiah 51, let's start in Jeremiah 51 at verse 59. Jeremiah 51, beginning at verse 59 and reading down to verse 64. This is Jeremiah chapter 51 from verse 59 down to verse 64. The word which Jeremiah the prophet commanded Shariah, the son of Nariah, the son of Maashah, which he sent unto Zedekiah, the king of Judah, into Babylon in the 4th year of his reign. And this Shariah was a quiet prince, So Jeremiah wrote in the book all the evil that should come upon Babylon, even all these words that are written against Babylon. And Jeremiah said unto Shariah, when thou comest to Babylon, and shalt see, and shalt read all these words, then shalt thou say, O Yahweh, thou hast spoken against this place to cut it off, that none shall remain in it, neither man nor beast, but that it shall be desolate forever. And it shall be, when thou hast made an end of reading this book, that thou shalt bind a stone to it and cast it into the midst of the Euphrates. And thou shalt say, thus shall Babylon sink and shall not rise from the evil that I will bring upon her, and they shall be weary. And thus far are the words of Jeremiah. So you can see the river Euphrates is associated with Babylon. Everybody see that? Let's get a second witness for that. But the river Euphrates is associated with Babylon. Okay. And let's look again in Revelation, which we haven't gotten to this part yet, but for our purposes here, let's take a look at Revelation chapter 18. Revelation chapter 18. And let's begin Revelation 18 at verse 1 and 2. Again, in the book of Revelation, the kingdom of Babylon is a worldwide system that combines religion and business and politics. Okay, it's a worldwide system that combines religion and business and politics, commerce, as well as politics, of course, with kings and religion. So this in Jeremiah, it's the what we now call Iran. Okay, Iran and Iraq is Babylon. Iraq especially is Babylon. But now that's not what it was called then. It was the kingdom of Babylon centered there, which is a worldwide empire. Now we have a worldwide empire again. And this in the book of Revelation is also called Babylon, as we will see. So here in Revelation 18, beginning at verse 1 and 2, Revelation chapter 18, beginning at verse 1 and 2. Remember what Jeremiah told Shariah to do. Take a big stone and take the words and tie the words to the stone and throw it in the Euphrates, because it's a symbol that Babylon is also going to sink. So here in Revelation 18, beginning at verse 1, reading verse 1 and 2. And after these things, I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hole of every foul spirit, and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird. So now you see the subject again of the wrath is Babylon, only this time it's a worldwide system rather than one country. See, does that make sense, y'all? So now let's take this same chapter 18. Remember what we just read in Jeremiah chapter 51. But let's take a look. Revelation chapter 18. And I'm going to begin at verse 20 and read from verse 20 and 21 of Revelation chapter 18. Watch what the angel does. Before it was Shariah. This time it's an angel. Before it was one country. This time it's the world empire. Okay. Rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets, for Yahweh hath avenged you on her. And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and cast it into the sea, saying, thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. So you can see there's a parallel. There's the example in the book of Jeremiah, and then there's another event, an actual event in the book of Revelation. So you see also that in Jeremiah, the great river Euphrates, tied to, of course, Babylon, is mentioned. And here is Babylon again. So you can see also the Euphrates is tied to the same world empire. And of course, we know Revelation 16 mentions it. But for our purposes, we're talking about the sixth trumpet. So let's go back again to Revelation chapter 9 and see again the river Euphrates being mentioned. And so we know it's being mentioned in conjunction with the system of Babylon. Does that make sense, y'all? So let's go Revelation chapter 9. Let's go back to verse 15 and read from verse 15 down, 14, read verse 14 and 15, saying to the sixth angel which had the trumpet, loose the four angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. And the four angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year, for to slay the third part of men. So for that 391-year period, Babylon was being represented by the Ottoman Empire and the Muslims, okay? As they were also, the leader was called Apollyon and Abaddon, right? The destroyer, which we know, an angel that fell from heaven and has the keys to the bottomless pit, which is this bottomless pit is the pit of death, which represents the earth, okay? So now it said, verse 16, and the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000 thousands. And I heard the number of them. So it was a large Islamic group of armies that was taking over large parts of land and countries and continents, including Africa, as we know. So now when you're talking about Egypt, for example, Egypt became Muslim during this time. Egypt wasn't Muslim. When our forefathers left the land of Mizraim, it was not a Muslim country. Islam didn't even exist. It wasn't until after this Ottoman Empire came into existence that Islam spread through what is Palestine, through what is Africa, through what is Kush, what is Egypt, all the way into the west part of Africa, and you had Islamic kingdoms being established. The kingdom of Mali, the kingdom of Ashanti, the kingdom of there was another one. There was the Mali, there was Sungad, there was the Mali Empire, there was Ashanti Empire, and these were Muslim empires that was established with libraries and lots of modern things that people in the North didn't know nothing about. Okay, but the Ottoman Empire started all that. Okay, the Ottoman Empire started all that. Okay, and so that was after the Great River Euphrates, and a lot of people were killed. And it mentions a third, which tells you those people were us. Okay, so we were also forced into Islam by the Ottoman Empire. That is why when you look at the documented Roots, the Roots series, Kunta Kinte is a Muslim. When they take Kunta Kinte from West Africa and bring him to Annapolis, Maryland, he's a Muslim. Okay, and that the reason why is because that happened after the Ottoman Empire. Okay, that happened after the Ottoman Empire. So even to this day, as you know, there are many Muslim population all over Africa. All over Africa, you have Muslim populations. See, really, North Africa is dominant, but you also have it in Nigeria, Mali, Senegal, Cote d'Ivoire. All of them have large Muslim populations. Cameroon, large Muslim population. So even after the English came and the French and the Europeans and brought Christianity with them, a lot of those populations were still Muslim. Okay, and to this very day, it's really, you have both there. Like in Rwanda, where they had the genocide in the 90s, that's Roman Catholic now. Now, I don't think that's any accident. That's Roman Catholic now. And then you have Senegal and Mali and Niger. Those are all French colonies that are Muslims. Okay, so it's interesting how it all came together. But all of that came after 1453. And then the Edict of Toleration was issued in 1844. And of course, we know that as of 1844, the Messiah was supposed to be completing his work in the most holy place, but there was a delay. And the part of the delay is because of what you see right here. Okay, we were enslaved by Christianity and we were enslaved by Islam. Both of those religions enslaved us. Christianity afterwards and Islam before. So when they came, that is the Europeans, to get us and bring us in them slave ships, we were Muslims. Okay, we were Hebrews by blood, but we were Muslims. And that's as far back as some of the brothers go. Like Malcolm X, and most of his speeches, he begins our history in talking about Islamic empires. He does not go in there was no Islam in the Bible for the Hebrews. That didn't come into existence until 700 years after Messiah. See, so there was no, it's like people say Ishmael was no Muslim. There was no Muslim in the Bible. Okay, it didn't exist as a religion until the 7th century. Okay, 7th century was, yes, there was a delay in 1844. Let's take a look at that. That's Revelation chapter 7. Jamal asked about the delay. So in 457 BC, the 2300 year, 457 BC was the decree to restore and to build Jerusalem. Okay, 457 BC by Artaxerxes, a Persian king. The book of Nehemiah is all about Artaxerxes sending Nehemiah to Jerusalem so Nehemiah could rebuild the wall and the city. So if you go, Daniel talked about a 2300 year period before the sanctuary would be cleansed. He said the sanctuary would be cleansed after 2,300 days, which we know to be 2,300 years. That's Daniel chapter 8, verse 14. So what happened is in 457 BC, the angel Gabriel told Daniel that the 2,300 years would begin then, after the order to rebuild Jerusalem, which came in 457 BC with Artaxerxes of Persia. So when you add 2,300 years to 457 BC, you end up at 1843. Okay, now there is no year zero, so it really was 1844. Now, the cleansing of the sanctuary in the Bible is one day on the 10th day of the 7th month, where the high priest would go into the most holy place. In every Israelite feast or every Israelite ceremony, there's a prophetic counterpart. For example, the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread pointed to Messiah. The Feast of Weeks pointed to the resurrection of the first fruits that the Bible talks about in Matthew 50 of those that Messiah brought with him. The Feast of Tabernacles, which is the end of the year gathering of the harvest, is the return of Messiah. But in between the Feast of Weeks and the Feast of Tabernacles, there is the Day of Atonement, when the sanctuary is cleansed. The Messiah is the high priest to cleanse the sanctuary. So based on the Daniel prophecy of 2,300 years, he should have started that process in 1843 and finished in 1844. One prophetic day is 1 year. But the Bible tells us that there's a delay in that process. So let's look at that, because when he finishes that work, he returns. So we read in Revelation chapter 6, under the 6th seal, this, Revelation 6, beginning at verse 12, Revelation 6, under the 6th seal, it says, "And I beheld when he had opened the 6th seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood, and the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind. And the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together. And every mountain and island were moved out of their places. And the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the chief captains, and the mighty men, and every bondman and every freeman hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us, and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? So this is an obvious description in the sixth seal of the return of Messiah, which I was just saying should have began in 1844, really 1849, which is the Feast of Tabernacles, 5 years after the Day of Atonement, which is 5 days after the Day of Atonement in Israel. But instead, chapter 7, let's read verses 1 to 4. Revelation chapter 7, verses 1 to 4. This is still the sixth seal. And after these things, I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God. And he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our Most High in their foreheads. And I heard the number of them which were sealed, and there were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel. So let's look at this closely, particularly verse 2. At the end of chapter 6, the question was asked, the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? In Revelation 7, verse 2, notice the position that is described of the angel in Revelation chapter 7, verse 2. It says, and I saw another angel ascending from the east. Now, if he saw an angel ascending, what was the angel doing? When someone is ascending, what are they doing? Testing 1, 2, 3. When someone is ascending, what are they doing? They're going up. That's right. So this angel was going up in the air. That's correct. And notice what it says, having the seal of the living God. So he had a seal and he was going up, which tells us he had come down with a seal, but he couldn't do his job. So he was going back up. Does that make sense, y'all? And as he's ascending, he's telling 4 angels that was given permission to destroy the earth, hold the winds until we seal Yah's servants. See? So that's what we call the delay. Messiah was supposed to come back already, but there was a delay because he couldn't seal Yah's servants. Being that the children of Israel are the descendants of slaves, where were Yah's Hebrew Israelites in 1844? Where were we? We were enslaved. We were enslaved to Christians, and we were enslaved by Muslims in 1844. Does that make sense? Who is it? Jamal? Does that make sense, Jamal? So we were enslaved in 1844. So therefore, the 144,000 were not born yet, much less ready to be sealed. So there was a delay until the 144,000 should be brought forth and sealed. Okay, so that delay is still during the 6th seal, and it's going to be during the 6th trumpet as well. So we'll talk about that in a minute because we're in the trumpets now. But in the seals, before we get to the 7th seal, you see the Feast of Tabernacles in Revelation chapter 7. So that means the same seal, the same church, the same trumpet in the 6th that you had the delay, you're going to have the completion as well. Okay, you're gonna have the completion as well. Yeah, no problem, Jamal. I gave you what took me several Bible studies in just a few minutes. So yes, it would take a minute to go and absorb all of that. I gave you a lot. I admittedly gave you a whole lot. This takes a lot for people to absorb. But we did a study on that in Daniel chapter 9, and then we have that, and we gave a study on that, and we did the study here this year in Revelation chapter 6 and 7 when we did the sixth seal. But that's why when I mentioned a delay, that's what I'm talking about. I'm glad you asked the question because it was a good question, and yes, that's why we talk about delay. So here we had the sixth church, Philadelphia, which the Bible says about those people, they will be pillars in Yah's temple, which means we know they're priests and Levites. Here we had the sixth seal, which shows them getting sealed after a delay, and then celebrating the Feast of Tabernacles, which is the return of Messiah. And here in the sixth trumpet, we're going to see the parallel of those things. The first parallel we see is the Islamic revolution, really, of the Ottoman Empire that came and went into Africa. We, as Hebrews, had scattered. Most of us were in Africa, running from the Romans. But prior to the southern kingdom of Judah being scattered by the Romans, the northern 10 tribes had already been scattered by the Assyrians for 500 years before that, which is in 2 Kings. So the northern tribes had already been scattered all over the earth. And then the southern kingdom of Judah and the people that were in it, which represented, I'm sure, more than just Judah, but the southern kingdom of Judah was scattered mostly into Africa after 70 AD. So when the Muslims came in, in the 13th, the 12th, 13th century, they was forcing everybody to be Muslim. And if you wasn't Muslim, you had to be Christian. And that is why the Eastern European Russians and Polish chose Judaism. And by the late 19th century, they had put this star up, this thing they call the Star of David. That didn't even exist until the 18th, 17th century. It wasn't in the Bible. The Bible talks about a star of Moloch. Y'all's people never had a star as a symbol. When you see that so-called Star of David, that's a pagan symbol. That is the pagan symbol counterpart of Ashkenazi Jews, like the cross is the Christian symbol. You all know they use the cross as a Christian symbol. Well, the Ashkenazi Jews use a star. The same star that's on the flag of the state of Israel. Yeah, it's a pagan symbol. Okay. And so in the Bible, there's two verses that talk about that in Acts and Amos. And in both cases, they're pagan, they're false gods. And with respect to this one that the Ashkenazi Jews use, it had different manifestations. But the last one was 1897 when they used it as the symbol of Zionism, which they still do because Israel is a Zionist state. Okay. So back to the sixth trumpet. So now we see the 391 years. And then we see that there was the largeness of the army is just talking about how Islam spread. Islam was just as widely spread as Christianity, during this time. So Islam had a big spreading, again, through Africa, through what is now the Middle East. As you can see, there's no Christian nation in what's called the Middle East, from Turkey to Iran to Iraq to Saudi Arabia to all of them countries. They're Muslim countries, okay, all the way down to Egypt, Morocco, Libya, Mali, Senegal, Cote d'Ivoire, Cameroon, them all, and even now Nigeria is Christian and Muslim. And so is Ghana. Ghana is mostly Christian, but it's Muslim too. You had the Ashanti Empire. That was a Muslim empire. So you have all the countries in Africa are divided like that. Okay, divided like that. Okay, so in Ethiopia, you had Ethiopian Hebrews, which the Ashkenazis co-opted. But anyway, so here we go. So Revelation chapter 9, let's begin at verse 17 and read down to verse 20. And thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them having breastplates of fire and of jacinth and of brimstone. And the heads of the horses were as the heads of lions, and out of their mouths issued fire and smoke and brimstone. By these was the third part of men killed, by the fire and by the smoke and by the brimstone, which issued out of their mouths. For their power was in their mouth and in their tails. As we talked about this before. For their tails were like unto serpents, and their heads had heads, and with them they do hurt. And the rest of the men which were not killed by these plagues, yet repented not of their works of their hands, that they should not worship devils and idols of gold and silver and brass and stone and of wood, which neither can see nor hear nor walk. So the Bible is showing us how the Most High feels, the God of Jacob feels about certain religions. Verse 21, neither repented they of their murders, nor of their sorceries, nor of their fornication, nor of their thefts. You know, as I always like to mention, the Islamic movement in America really was a result of the rejection by the Hebrews in America of Christianity. That's what it really was. So when you see an Elijah Poole become Elijah Muhammad, and you see a Malcolm Little become Malcolm X, or Louis Farrakhan, when you see Khalid Abdul Muhammad, these men were rejecting white Jesus and Christianity. Unfortunately, they turned to Islam. But the reason they turned to Islam is because when you look at Islamic roots in Africa, it goes back before there was a United States of America. Right? So the Islamic roots in Africa were before America ever existed. It wasn't during the time of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, 4,000 years later, but it was before there was a United States of America. So men in the United States rejected white Jesus, rejected Christianity, and went to what they thought was our roots in Africa. Okay. Does that make sense, y'all? And so we, and a lot of the Caucasians like to say, well, you black people, you sold each other into slavery, as if that means something, because Joseph's brothers sold him into slavery. So I don't know what point they're trying to make and trying to justify themselves. But really the truth, as we see it in the book of Joel, it was Hamites selling Israelites to Europeans. That's what happened. Because even though to them we all look alike, and now our seed has been mixed with Hamites, like Barack Obama's children. Barack Obama, his mama was of Japhet and his daddy was a Hamite, but his wife is a Hebrew. So his two daughters are Hebrew children, because the Hebrew seed is always the dominant seed. So we were Hebrews, Shemites, being sold by Hamites to children of Japhet, Europeans. Okay, that's how that worked. And they knew who we was when they sold us. They knew who we was. Okay, so now, this is now Revelation chapter 10, and it's the same. We're still in the sixth trumpet. So let's not forget that. Revelation chapter 9, verse 12? Verse 12 started with the sixth trumpet, but Revelation chapter 10 and Revelation chapter 11 go into this. It's still the sixth trumpet. And if you notice, when you're looking at the sixth seal, it started in Revelation chapter 6, verse 12, and it went all the way through Revelation 7. And why do I make that point? Because the longest, most deepest, most intense part of history with respect to the kingdom of the Heavenly Father and Messiah is the sixth one, the sixth seal, the sixth church, the sixth trumpet. Because it's in the sixes where the 144,000 come forth. Okay, it's in the sixes. That's the most in-depth, most deepest, most powerful, most everything going on. 6. Okay. And notice 6 seal, 6 church, 6 trumpet. It's the Most High's answer to man. You see that? It's the Most High's answer to man. Man, 666. It's the number of a man. The Most High's answer comes 666. He said, I got something for you. I got something for you. So here we are now, Revelation chapter 10, beginning at verse 1. Revelation chapter 10, beginning at verse 1. Again, we're still in the 6th trumpet. And I saw another mighty angel come down from heaven, clothed with a cloud, and a rainbow was upon his head. And his face was as it were the sun, and his feet as pillars of fire. And he had in his hand a little book opened, and he set his right foot upon the sea and his left foot upon the earth. So a mighty angel that had a rainbow above his head. Is there any being, I'm going to give you a strong hint, in the book of Revelation beside this that has a rainbow above his head? Is there any being aside from this in the book of Revelation? The Most High has a rainbow above his head. And it also describes this being as having a face like the sun. Whose face shines like the sun shineth in his strength? Who is that? That is related to the Heavenly Father. No, not chapter 10. Before that. Oh, come on, buddy. Before that. That's right. It is, thank you. It is Messiah. So this angel I submit to you is Messiah. It's Messiah. Okay. Yes. So let's take a look. In fact, let's compare scripture. Okay. So this is Revelation chapter 1, verse 16. Actually, let me do verse 14, 15, and 16. Revelation chapter 1, verse 14, 15, and 16. And compare it to what we just read in Revelation 10, 1 and 2. Revelation chapter 1, 14, 15, and 16. His head and his hairs were like wool, white like wool, as white as snow. And his eyes were as a flame of fire, and his feet like unto fine brass, as if they burned in a furnace. And his voice as the sound of many waters. And he had in his right hand 7 stars, and out of his mouth went a sharp 2-edged sword. And watch this. And his countenance was as the sun shineth in his strength. Look at Revelation 10:1. And I saw another mighty angel come down from heaven, clothed with a cloud, and a rainbow was upon his head. And his face was as it were the sun, and his feet as pillars of fire. It's the same person. Okay, it's the same being. And he had in his right hand a little book. No, there was a little book open. Little book was open. And then he said, and he set his right foot upon the sea and his left foot on earth. Now let's compare this to another scripture that's going to sound very similar to this one. Let's look. This is Daniel chapter 12. It's going to sound very similar to Revelation chapter 10. Daniel chapter 12. Daniel chapter 12. And let's begin in Daniel 12. I'm going to begin at verse 5. Daniel 12. I'm going to begin at verse 5 and go down to verse 7. Actually, yeah. I'm going to start at verse 5 and go down to verse 7. Daniel chapter 12. Listen carefully. And then I, Daniel, looked, and behold, there stood other 2. The one on this side of the bank of the river, and the other on that side of the bank of the river. And one said to the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, how long shall it be to the end of these wonders? And I heard the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, when he held up his right hand and his left hand unto heaven, and swear by him that liveth forever, that it shall be for a time, times, and in half, when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people, all these things shall be finished. Okay, so he said there's going to be a 3.5 period that's going to be accomplished when the power to scatter us would cease. They would no longer be able to scatter us. So he made an announcement. Now Daniel is listening to Messiah. This is Messiah. Daniel's listening to him talk, and he don't understand. Look, what? Verse 8 and 9. And I heard, but I understood not. Then said I, O my master, what shall be the end of these things? And he said, go thy way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed until the time of the end. So he was telling Daniel the meaning to these prophecies of Daniel would be closed up and sealed until the time of the end. Did y'all get that? The meaning of these prophecies of Daniel that Daniel didn't understand, he said it's going to be sealed, closed up and sealed until the time of the end. Okay, so now we go to chapter 10, the sixth trumpet, and he says there was a little book in his hand that was open. Y'all see this? Revelation chapter 10, verse 2. And when he had in his hand a little book open, and he set his right foot upon the sea and his left foot upon the earth. Okay, that is the book of Daniel. And that is the time of the end. In other words, you and I, in the sixth church, in the sixth seal, in the sixth trumpet, we live in the time of the end. And the book of Daniel would be open. In other words, it would be revealed to us. As the book of Revelation said, the revelation of Messiah, which the Father gave unto him. So the book of Revelation is showing a revealing, which that revealing includes the book that was sealed, which is the book of Daniel. So the book of Daniel is being revealed to us. The book of Revelation is being revealed to us. Okay, we are living at the time of the end, the sixes. After 1843, we are living, and actually it started in 1453 with the opening of the sixth trumpet, the time of the end. Okay, started in 14, the time of the end. Here we are. Okay, so this is where we live. All right, now let's keep reading. This is Revelation chapter 10, verse 3. Revelation chapter 10, verse 3. And cried with a loud voice as when a lion roareth, you know, the lion of the tribe of Judah. And when he had cried, 7 thunders uttered their voices. Now, brethren, what is the voice of the 7 thunders? We heard the lion of Judah, but when he cried out, 7 thunders uttered their voices. Who's the 7 thunders, brethren? What is that? The thunder. That's right. The voice of the Most High is thunder. Correct. And we know that's John chapter 12. John chapter 12. And there's other, I think it was Isaiah. There's a couple. Psalms 18, I believe. All of them talk about the voice of the Father. Thunder and hailstones and coals of fire, right? Okay. Exodus. Now, verse 4. Watch, 7 thunders said something. Watch verse 4. Revelation chapter 10, verse 4. And when the 7 thunders had uttered their voices, I was about to write. So John understood what the 7 thunders uttered. He understood what the Father's voice was saying. He was about to write. And right, he was told, write the things which thou hast seen and things which heard and the things which shall be hereafter, right? He's going to write. Okay. But then something happened. And I heard a voice from heaven saying unto me, seal up those things which the seven thunders uttered, and write them not. Do not write that. That's what he was told. Don't write that. Okay, so when are we going to find out about that? About what the Father said? When are we going to find that out? Okay, verse 5. And the angel which I saw stand upon the sea and upon the earth lifted up his hand to heaven, verse 6, and swear by him that liveth forever and ever, who created heaven and the things that therein are, and the earth and the things that therein are, and the sea and the things which are therein, that there should be time no longer. So at the time of the sixes, that is when time shall end. Now think about this, brethren. You can mark years. You can mark a new year. You can mark the first month of the new year and all of the months that go to the 12th month of the year. But how can you keep time in terms of years when you're living forever? How can you keep time in perpetuity? So in other words, the object of clocks with time is temporary. We're going to live in an atmosphere where there won't be any time. The last counting of time is the 1,000-year period. The first 1,000 years of Messiah's reign. That's the last counting of time. Okay, that countdown for the 1,000 years. And before that countdown, we're living in this time in Babylon. Babylon won't exist. There'll be no Babylonian time anymore. It won't exist anymore. There'll be no clocks. You won't need a clock anymore, ever. You won't need a clock. Okay, you won't even need a calendar. You won't need any of that. All you will need is to be in the kingdom, and you'll see the moon phases, and you'll see the sun rise and set, and you'll know what time it is. You won't need a clock, and you will never be in a rush. You'll never be late to anything, right? I'm running late. Gotta go. Nope, that's not going to happen. That's never going to happen. There'll be time no longer. So the Messiah made an announcement. He said, don't write what the seven thunders uttered now, but he made a pronouncement. There's going to be time no more. Praise the Most High. Okay. Verse 7. Watch this. Verse 7. Revelation 10:7. But in the days of the voice of the seventh angel, when he shall begin to sound, the mystery of Yahweh should be finished, as he hath declared to his servants, the prophets. So we will know what the seven thunders uttered in the seventh trumpet. When the seventh trumpet goes, that's it. Okay. Now, we're going to talk about when that happens as we finish the sixth, but we'll talk about it. But anyway, let's keep going. So this is Revelation chapter 10, verse 8. Revelation chapter 10, verse 8. What about the little book, right? Revelation chapter 10, verse 8. And the voice which I heard from heaven spake unto me again and said, watch this, go and take the little book, which is open in the hand of the angel standing upon the sea and upon the earth. So, and I went unto the angel and said unto him, give me the little book. And he said unto me, take it and eat it up. It shall make thy belly bitter, but it shall be in thy mouth sweet as honey. And I took the little book out of the angel's hand and ate it up. And it was in my mouth sweet as honey. But as soon as I had eaten it, my belly was bitter. And he said unto me, thou must prophesy again before many peoples and nations and tongues and peoples. Okay, let's let Ezekiel teach us what eating the book means. Because Ezekiel's going to tell you. I ain't going to tell you. Ezekiel's going to tell you, right? Let's go to Brother Zeke. Brother Zeke, and it's early in Brother Zeke. I want to say it's like in chapter 2. It's early in Brother Zeke's prophecy. Okay, let's take a look at Brother Zeke here, man. Yeah. This is Brother Zeke, chapter 2. Ezekiel, chapter 2. I'm going to read from Ezekiel chapter 2, and I'm going to read verse 9 and 10, and I'm going to go down from there and go into chapter 3 to verse 4. So this is Ezekiel chapter 2. He's going to teach you what it means when John was eating that book, the Daniel. He's going to teach you what this means. And John really did tell you, but I want Zeke also to back it up in the mouth of what? 2 or 3 witnesses, right? So here we got our second witness about eating a book. Okay, watch. This is Ezekiel chapter 2 from verse 9 into chapter 3, verse 4. And when I looked, behold, an hand was sent unto me, and lo, a roll of a book was therein. And he spread it before me. And it was written within and without. And there was written therein lamentations and mourning and woe. Moreover, he said unto me, Son of man, eat that thou findest. Eat this roll, and go speak unto the house of Israel. So he's eating this roll with the words that the Father have on it. And when he eats it, he's going to speak to the house of Israel. So the words of the book represented the words that he's going to eat. That's going to be the Father's message to Israel. Okay, keep reading. So I opened my mouth, and he caused me to eat that roll. And he said unto me, Son of man, cause thy belly to eat. Fill thy bowels with this roll that I give thee. Then did I eat it. And it was in my mouth as what? As honey for sweetness, just like with John. Verse 4. And he said unto me, Son of man, go, get thee into the house of Israel and speak my words unto them. So eating that roll represents eating the Father's words, and then he was going to speak out what he ate. Does that make sense to y'all? Y'all with me so far? That's what he told. So Ezekiel's message was what? Lamentation and mourning and woe. That was Ezekiel's message. Okay, let's go back to Revelation. What was the message in the little book? It told you, but because we had to read Ezekiel, you'll see it more clearly here. Watch. So now he ate the book, and I'm going to read verse 9, 10, and 11. Tell me what the little book says. Let's read it. This is Revelation chapter 10. Let's read verse 9, 10, and 11. And you tell me, it tells you what the little book was about. Okay, how we know it's the book of Daniel? Watch. It tells you what the little book was about. Let's read it. Revelation chapter 10, verse 9, 10, and 11. And I went unto the angel and said unto him, Give me the little book. And he said unto me, Take it and eat it up, and it shall make thy belly bitter. But it shall be in thy mouth sweet as honey. And I took the little book out of the hands of the angel's hand and ate it up. And it was in my mouth sweet as honey. And as soon as I had eaten it, my belly was bitter. And he said unto me, Thou must prophesy again before many peoples and nations and tongues and kings. So what was the little book's words? What was it? We saw Ezekiel's words was lamentation and woe to Israel. What was the little book what was that? What were those words about? What was it saying? What are those words about? The one that John ate. What did it say? What did the angel say? Read it carefully. What is in that book that he ate? Ezekiel's book was lamentation and woe and mourning and woe unto Israel. That's right. Thank you, Sister Karl. He said, Thou must prophesy. So the little book was a book of prophecy. Question, is the book of Daniel a book of prophecy? Simple question, right? Is the book of Daniel a book of prophecy? And the book of Daniel is not only a book of prophecy, but it was a sealed book. And so here it was opened, and the people of the sixth trumpet, which is also the sixth church, which is also the sixth seal, will prophesy unto nations and peoples and tongues. That represents you and me. Does that make sense, y'all? So why would it be bitter in his belly? So he ate the truth and it was sweet, but there was a backlash. Isn't that correct? So you could eat something that tastes good, but then if it don't digest right, what happened? It bothers your tummy. right? You say, oh man, mess up. It tastes good when you eat it, but then when you finish eating it, boy, it hurt. So there's a backlash from the prophetic words. So we will speak the word, we will prophesy before peoples and nations and tongues and kings. We will, right? And it's going to have a backlash that's going to make our belly bitter. And this is the thing. What have we been doing, brethren? Have we not been focusing on praying to the Father who gave the seven thunders and reading his word? Isn't that correct? Reading his word. And why? We're eating his word so we can bring prophecy. See what I'm saying? So there you go. Now, I'm going to save chapter 11 for tomorrow, but y'all got this part so far. I gave you a lot today. I will say I gave you a lot today. Between the 2,300 days we talked about, which is also, the sixth seal also, but y'all got a lot today. And then, of course, we see the comparison between Daniel and the book of Revelation. You can see that. There's more, of course. We're going to see more of Daniel with the book of Revelation. Matter of fact, all the prophets from Moses to Malachi are in Revelation. But there's a special connection with Daniel. Because Daniel prophesied, and the reason that is because Daniel prophesied about the abomination that causes desolation. That's why. See, Daniel was focused. The Most High was giving him the abomination, the little horn, the abomination that maketh desolation. And the book of Revelation is showing you again the abomination that maketh desolation. That connects Daniel in the book of Revelation together. Okay, that connects Daniel and the book of Revelation together. And of course, the book of Daniel also talks about the attack of the Ottoman Empire on the Byzantine in Daniel chapter 11. It also talks about that. It also talks about an image, right? That Nebuchadnezzar demanded that the people worship, that the Hebrews would not worship, at least the three, right? Revelation also talks about an image. So there's a real thick connection between Daniel and the book of Revelation. And so we're going to continue to see that as we continue moving through the book of Revelation. We've already seen some of it, but you're going to see more. There's a lot of more with respect to Daniel especially. Okay? Praise the Most High. All right. So we'll come back, and we're still going to be in the sixth trumpet in chapter 11. Okay? We're still going to be in the sixth trumpet. But may the Most High bless you and keep you. May he cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. And may he lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Shalom. Shalom. Shalom, Sister Cross. And good morning to you over there. Sister Cross is on the other side of earth in Southeast Asia. Good morning to you, Sister Cross, over there in Southeast Asia. Shabbat morning, as we are over here in this part of the world in Shabbat evening. And then I think Brother David here? Brother David over there he's 7 hours, I think, ahead of us. So he's like 6 a.m. tomorrow morning over there. Praise the Most High. Yes, morning, it's almost 11 o'clock in the morning, right? It's about 11 a.m. Here we are, almost 11 p.m. All right. Praise the Most High. So, Sister Cross, enjoy the rest of the Shabbat today. Enjoy some durian for me. We'll talk to y'all soon. Please stay blessed, stay safe. Shabbat shalom to all.